We are examining the final evolution of Hiccup and Astrid's relationship. Today, we are looking at what occurred to create this legendary Viking marriage. Hello, I'm Isaac from Watso Videos, where we discuss fun topics for fun people. I'm focused on spreading magic by examining Disney and, the occasional amazing DreamWorks film. So, whether you're a veteran of my videos or are brand new, consider following my adventures on Instagram and subscribing. Even though Astrid didn't seem extremely impressed with her chief's son at first, Astrid and Hiccup were able to create a friendship over many years, learned to trust and lean on one another, and understood over time that they had a deep bond. They had come to terms with their feelings, began their relationship, and revealed it to the world. And soon after that, they learned that they were meant to be together. Through their betrothal ceremony, they made a commitment to love each other for the rest of their lives, which I discussed in one of my previous videos on Astrid that covers how they became engaged before the events of the second How to Train Your Dragon film. Once they were engaged though, Astrid and Hiccup were unsure of when they would one day be married. They knew they would be together forever, and that Hiccup and Astrid would lead Burke since Hiccup followed in his father's stoic footsteps as chief. But after declaring their engagement over a year before the events of the Hidden World, that's still all they knew. You would think this would be the easiest point in the relationship, that all they had to do was get married now that they had chosen each other. The truth was, though, that they had to first understand that they didn't just love each other, but also needed one another if they hoped to take on the world and be the best leaders they could become. Some, like Gabber, knew that was the case and hoped that Astrid and Hiccup would finally unite their lives so that their generation could truly start to lead them into the future. Hiccup was chief and was learning how to lead his people, but at times he became stubborn in his thought processes, was emotional, and leaned too heavily on his friendship with his dragon Toothless. Gabber, Hiccup's mother Velka, and many other citizens of Burke believed that Hiccup and Astrid's union would allow the couple to bring out the best in one another and keep one another on track to thrive as they desired.
Start ruling like a proper royal couple. Marry him, please. You're the only one with any sense around here.
The problem was, though, that they were unsure if they were ready to finally make that type of commitment to one another. Astrid felt confident that they were a long ways off from going through with their intended marriage.
You think you and I should...
Oh, gods no. We're nowhere near ready for that.
No, that's crazy.
Hiccup, on the other hand, seemed more willing to move their lives forward, but wasn't really willing to fight Astrid on the issue just yet. He was satisfied with where they were in their relationship, even though he had every intention of marrying her whenever he had Astrid's support. Others, like Toughnut, believed that Hiccup was unworthy of marrying Astrid just yet, and that she would actually want to marry him if he became something more than a malnourished runt. Now, it seems absolutely ridiculous to believe that Astrid and Hiccup didn't actually have a deep connection that would withstand both of them evolving as individuals, but in a way, he had a point. They both kind of weren't ready to be married just yet. Toughnut made it very clear that he thought his chief had to show that he was a true Viking.
Listen, I've been watching you walk. Lose the limp. No one's gonna marry that.
I have a prosthetic leg.
It wasn't about walking without a limp, though, getting his voice straightened out, or acting more manly. Hiccup needed to take control of his own life and have faith in his abilities before he gave himself to another. While Toughnut's advice was far from helpful when it came to Hiccup's relationship with Astrid, the underlying truth was that Hiccup did need to get his confidence up. Hiccup had to be sure of himself. But that would be difficult to achieve, though, for while all of these debates were occurring on when the Viking royal couple would be married, Hiccup was going through turmoil as Toothless began to distance himself from him, Burke began to be overrun by dragons, and warlords led by the dragon hunter Grimmel began to descend upon Burke. After continuing to lose who he was as Toothless fell in love and his losses became even more devastating against Grimmel, Hiccup came to a point where he was swirling out of control as he desperately grasped to figure out how to get out of this predicament. Seeing Hiccup struggling, Velka told Astrid what she believed was wrong with him.
He thinks he has to lead alone. Well, because his father had to. He doesn't realize the strength you have together.
With Astrid's belief solidified in the man she was betrothed to, she spoke to Hiccup in hopes of helping him realize the truth about himself. This is the inflection point, where Astrid is able to see how much of an impact she can make in shaping Hiccup's life, as Gabber had described earlier. After Toothless leaves for a period of time with the Light Fury, together Hiccup and Astrid go to the Hidden World and find that Toothless has begun to rule the Dragon Land with his loving Light Fury by his side. Hiccup saw through his journey with Astrid that his best friend was going to live his own life, but after dragons discover the two humans in the Hidden World, Toothless is forced to bring them back to their home, where he, his Light Fury, and the rest of their dragons are soon captured by Grimmel. Again, Hiccup doesn't know how to handle the situation without his dragon by his side, as the world seemed to be crumbling around him because of his own actions. If he had just let Toothless go, Hiccup would have never put his friend at risk. But again, Astrid intervenes with the guidance of Velka.
He'll listen to you.
Hiccup reduced himself in his mind to the same screw-up that he had once been, but Astrid points out that she has been watching him doubt himself ever since he made the first decision to become the man he was destined to be. She also communicates to him that he was the one who had shaped her with his stubbornness, bravery, determination, and knuckleheadedness, and that Toothless hadn't given him any of that. Slowly, through the words of Astrid, Hiccup began to look inside himself and see what Astrid was seeing within him. He had been able to thrive more easily because of Toothless, but not solely because of him. Sure, it would be a lot harder, but Hiccup knew he could continue to lead his warriors and people forward. Within this conversation especially, we can see how Astrid and Hiccup mold each other into what they want to become, and they were learning through that realization that they needed one another to make that happen.
So, what are you gonna do about it?
Probably something stupid.
That's the Hiccup I know.
With the announcement that they would rescue their dragons, Tough Nut proclaimed that finally Hiccup was marriage material, which supports the idea further that Hiccup understood his true strength, might, and intelligence because of the guidance of Astrid. With Chief Hiccup leading his generation of warriors against Grimmel's forces, the dragons were able to be freed to assist in the efforts to halt the many trappers and take down Grimmel. Toothless and the many dragons were freed once again, in part due to the efforts of Hiccup and his leadership. But the dragons wouldn't be safe forever. Knowing that there would continue to be selfish people hoping to utilize dragons for themselves, Hiccup felt he had to let Toothless and the dragons be free to watch over their own kind. So, after saying goodbye, the dragons retreated to the Hidden World, where they would live in peace and solidarity. All of Berk would miss these creatures, but they would not be alone, for they had their chief to watch over them, who was finally ready to have a chiefess by his side. 3 months after the dragon's departure, all of New Berk gathered in front of the newly carved statue of Stoic the Vast. Here, Astrid and Hiccup are seen wearing all white, fur capes held on with medallions with their dragons carved upon them, gold cuffs on their wrists, and floral crowns on their heads to symbolize their leadership of Berk. Here, for the first time, we also see Astrid without the band around her head that is known as a Viking Kransen. A Viking Kransen has a Nordic definition roughly meaning head wreath, which was an accessory worn by unmarried girls during special occasions, but was worn by Astrid daily. Traditionally, a Kransen was passed down from mother to daughter, so a single Kransen could last for many generations. While Berkians did not follow this tradition seriously, the removal of Astrid's Kransen symbolizes that she was finally going to transform into a married woman. The couple binds hands to begin the ceremony, and with the guidance of the village elder Gothi, she wraps a white and golden sash around their hands with 2 dragons intertwining on it, likely symbolizing Hiccup and Astrid's union on that day. They were both fierce creatures, whose lives would never be separated until death. While many of their close friends and family cried around them, Gothi tapped her staff on the sash, which declared that the 2 Vikings were now one, and they kissed to solidify that marriage. According to Viking tradition, Hiccup and Astrid may have also been responsible for preparing lavish feasts, taking part in sacrifices, providing gifts between families, and exchanging weapons, along with many others to solidify the connection between them. Any or none of these could have taken place according to Berk's own traditions, but the final moment we saw of Hiccup and Astrid's marriage was their binding kiss, and the moments after, where they looked upon the sea towards the location of the Hidden World. Over the course of Hiccup and Astrid's life, they went from being completely distant to deciding to spend their lives together. Through the process of deciding to date and become betrothed, they learned that they had a connection that they never desired to give up. But it was only when they understood that they had to work as a team to help each other thrive that they finally knew that they were ready to be married, start a family, and rule as one. But what do you think? Are you happy with how Astrid and Hiccup's relationship developed and the lessons they learned during the events of the Hidden World? Let me know what you think in the comments, along with any other ideas you have for future videos. To see more How to Train Your Dragon videos, like who Astrid and Hiccup's children truly are, you can find a link to those videos in the description. And if you'd like to continue to see more magical discussions like this one, then don't forget to follow my adventures on Instagram and to click that subscribe button and the beautiful bell if you're new. Thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon who are amazing supporters of my videos, and I would highly recommend you signing up for Patreon down below. And as always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.